Ladies and gentlemen, joining me now is the documented world's strongest man. He was a gold medal winner at the Pan American Games in lifting of weights. He's a WWE Hall of Famer, legendary human being, and a man who carried me to Brooklyn from Times Square, living legend, football fan, Mark Henry. Mark.
And one fine, proud American.
How are you, Mark? I appreciate you so much for joining me. Obviously, I've told the story of you carrying me home while I'm puking my guts out. I need to give you a public thank you here on the airwaves right now.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate the public thank you, but it was completely unnecessary. I've been carrying drunk wrestlers for 25 years.
I think, to be honest, me being able to tell a story about the world's strongest man carrying me home one night is a truly beautiful thing, and it feels good to be in a long list of probably much more legendary humans than I'll ever become in my lifetime.
Well, oh, come on now. You're a damn kicker punter that fucking almost took somebody's head off.
So let's get into that.
That's got to count for something.
Let's get into that. So Mark and I met the same day he ended up carrying me home that night. I met him at it was an international cocktail affair party. He was sitting in the back. Very nice man. I've been a fan for a long time. I meet him. I chat with him. It was me, him, and Samoa Joe hanging out. It was a pretty cool little moment there. Then we start chit-chatting. I end up meeting him out at, I think it was Rosenberg's podcast first, and then I end up at Caroline's for Dolph Ziggler stand-up show that I slept through the entire thing. I feel very bad about that. I bought everybody shots and passed out. And then Mark Henry had to carry me home, and it was the next morning, I think, whenever you might have like, who the hell was that guy I was with yesterday? And you did some research and found out that I was a ball kicker on Sundays. Am I correct?
Well, the actual, I saw it, but it was the next day I saw it, but I remembered that I had seen it before. I just didn't put two and two together that was you that actually did that. And when I did see it, I was like, well, son of a gun, look at here. And I tell you what, like when I called you like a little kid because, I played ball and, we always picked on the punters and kickers about how they tackle. And you're not in that class. Like you got my respect.
Well, you did. I was very uncomfortable because Sam Roberts was telling me the whole story, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you embarrassed yourself in front of Mark Henry." And then I heard you were there, and I was like, "I don't want to go talk to the guy." And you were like, "No. I saw a video of you tackling somebody. I respect you." I'm like, "Okay, me and Mark Henry are friends." I think I was pretty excited about it, Mark.
Hell yeah, we definitely friends. I tell you what, I'm looking forward to getting together with you when I come to Indianapolis on next month on the 9th.
Well, I'll tell you what, SmackDown comes to Indianapolis on October 9th, and Mark Henry will be here. I believe he's doing some signings in Indianapolis. I can't wait for the people to come meet you. Let's talk about it now, Mark. You're co-host of the great show with Dave LaGreca, Busted Open.
The infamous show.
Infamous show with Bubba Ray Dudley also on there on Sirius XM every single day. You wrestled for all those years. You're now a WWE producer. You're loved by everybody in the WWE world. I haven't heard a single bad thing about you. What is life happening right now for Mark Henry? What do you do? What is the future for Mark Henry, and what is Mark Henry doing nowadays?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely doing the radio thing, and I love being at Sirius XM. It's giving me a chance to give my opinion and tell people exactly who I am outside of wrestling. All the years that they've seen me, they get to see more or hear more. I just finished, I just debuted a show on HBO, Random Acts of Flyness. I'm doing some acting now, too. I'm being super dad. My son had his first football game yesterday. He balled out. I mean, it's just been a real good experience getting to meet fans, traveling the world now, doing appearances and Comic-Cons. And if people want to reach me, they can reach me at Mark Henry. I can't even remember my own. See, it's that CTE's creeping in. No, but you can reach me at Mark Henry 640 at gmail.com. and I'm the Mark Henry on everything social media. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. But I'm having a good time doing the appearances and signings and stuff and traveling. I went to London, did a strongman seminar in Winnipeg, Canada, and actually emceed the strongman show the next day. So I'm staying pretty busy.
Well, you are the man. After meeting you, it makes a lot of sense why people want you to be everywhere. Your wrestling career was one that spanned decades. I mean, it was an incredible run with the WWE. There's no way you could have known that you would end up being the sports entertainer that ends up in the Hall of Fame whenever you were the world's strongest man and in those powerlifting competitions. Or was that the plan all along, Mark?
Not at all. I'd be lying my ass off if I said I knew that was coming. Like, I was one of the guys. One of the things that is held true my whole career is I'm very competitive, and I don't want to be outdone. So anybody that is ambitious and wants to have success, you got to be a little envious, a little jealous of other people's success, and try to match it. And that is exactly what I've done. I saw people. I was fortunate enough to be in an organization. I don't call ourselves a faction. I say we're an organization because we still talk today and we still do a bunch of things together. The Nation of Domination.
The Nation of Domination.
And, man, these guys were all professional men outside of wrestling. Everybody was doing something. And I was like, man, I'm not just going to be a wrestler. I'm gonna do the full gambit of entertainment, and that's what I prepared myself for. And it's been one of the biggest compliments to my character is the fact that I'm very competitive and I want to succeed.
It's very publicly known that a WWE wrestler's schedule and travel is lunacy almost. And back in the day, I think even more so than it already is now, they're traveling around the world in a week nowadays. Back in the day, you guys used to work 300 and some odd days a year, only a couple of days off. Was the schedule something you could have ever expected? And what was one of the most crazy runs or trips you went on?
Oh, my God, man, I had no clue. If they'd have told me that the schedule was like that, I'd have been like, nah, no thanks, y'all, good luck. But the craziest run I had was 36 days in a row. And we did 3 TVs on Sunday. So we basically knew we were going to be on the road for at least 3 weeks. So you do 3 TV shows, and then the shows, everything that you do after that has to meet with those other 3 shows. So you had to think 3 weeks ahead. So it was crazy, man. And I think that year was the year that I did the most days in a row. I mean, most days in a calendar year. I did 228 days. Jesus. And that's the most for me. But people like Ric Flair and John Cena and The Rock, because they're the champion, because they're the draw, the main draw, they have to be at almost every show, every live show, every televised show. So even if they don't wrestle and they're on the show, they get in the limos because, they didn't drive rental cars like us. The limo would pull up, they jump out, they go do their thing, they get back in the limo, and they're already at the next town before the show is over.
Do you think, with that being said, do you think John Cena and even Roman Reigns now deserve a lot more respect and credit from the fans because of just the grueling work schedule that they've been through in the last, decade?
Yeah, and that's the thing about to the fans that I don't understand. Booing Roman Reigns is like booing sweet baby Jesus because you cannot. He wants to be champion. He wants to be the guy that carries the load. He wants to be the guy that shows up every week for you. And John Cena, it was thrust upon him, but he wanted it too. And if anybody says different, I suggest you ask John Cena because I rode with him when he first started, when he was, the prototype before John Cena was even born. And he was one of those that was like, man, I really want to do this. And he's got that ambition, that drive. And those guys deserve all the credit, and they deserve all the money that they get too, because they carry the load. They deserve probably more because they really want it.
Coolest atmosphere outside of America that you've ever competed in?
The coolest atmosphere, Spain. We compete in bullfighting arenas. We've competed in coliseums. I mean, like, it's ridiculous, man. You could almost feel the death in those places. You walk in, and it's like the bullfighting runs. I'll send you some pictures of me standing in front of these runs where they sent the lions and tigers out to kill people. Like, I mean, it's just to be in a coliseum. It was just really, really weird.
I couldn't even fathom it. This is the same place where lions would come right out of the cage, kill a human, and then walk right back into the cage. That would be an interesting feeling, I could imagine. How many countries have you been in, Mark? Have you kept tally?
I have all of them. Nah. You know what, man? Like, I've been to every continent other than the North Pole, the South Pole, and Antarctica. And when they start doing shows there, I'll be there too.
Hell in a Cell is this week. Yep, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Every major city in America and every major city in the world, I've been to at least once. And that's the beauty of what the WWE and what wrestling has done for me and my family. Like, I've been able to see the world and have exposure and understanding of different people's cultures for almost 30 years, 24 years. And, like, I mean, it's just a learning tool that, I try to extend when I do shows like yours and mine. And anytime that I meet with people in these question and answer sessions, like, I say, man, like, ask some good questions because I've got some good answers.
Well, okay, here's a good question. As a man who sometimes enjoys having a good time, I think you got a chance to witness that. What's a city in the world that I need to visit and have a good time in?
Oh, Barcelona, Spain. Barcelona, Spain is just ridiculous. I would not say Belfast, Ireland, because I spent the night in jail there.
What happened?
Oh, man, a dude tapped me. I had a raw silk shirt. Anybody that's up to fashion that knows raw silk, the amount of raw silk that it requires to cover me is an exorbitant amount of money. It's about a $600 shirt. And this guy taps me on my shoulder with a Sharpie, and every time he touched me, like a rainbow effect went into my shirt.
Not today.
It just ruined the shirt. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And he was like, oh, man, I'm sorry. It's just a shirt, man. Then, I'm like, no, it's not just a shirt. And I got all pissed and bent out of shape about it. And he's like, well, you don't have to be an asshole. And I had a drink in my hand. I threw a drink in his face. and I dared him on his family to come outside so I could rip his skin off his body. And he wouldn't do it, of course, but then they called the police and they took my ass to jail.
I'm very excited I didn't have a Sharpie the night you carried me home. That could have ended a lot different.
You know the nice, sweet Mark Henry, but I tell you what, it is a bastard underneath it.
You're a big-time football fan. You said your kid plays. Did you watch the opening weekend of the NFL, and do you have any takeaways, Mark?
Oh, my God, man. I tell you what, it was not a good week for all of Virgin coaches. All of the guys that had their coaching debuts, head coaching debuts, got their ass kicked. And a lot of that is the football game, the pro game is just different than any other facet. If you're a coordinator, a lot of times you don't get the practice of making sure not only the proper calls are made, but in the situation in which that call needs to be made. It's just experience-based. And, Gruden didn't have an excuse. He should have done a lot better. And he just, I think, went in the booth mode, and it just didn't work in the second half.
He said, by the way, he said he wished they could have got to the quarterback more. Do you think maybe he was missing a particular player?
Oh, well, you know what? Let me think. Yeah.
Khalil Mack, what a debut.
I'll tell you what, Khalil Mack showed and paid dividends the first second that he was on the field in Chicago, and they missed him. They needed him. He was the catalyst for their defense. And you know what? That was a mistake. When you're trying to show who's got the biggest ball, sometimes you might want to realize that the person that you're competing against is the one that has them. And Khalil Mack was that guy. And he made just a colossal mistake trying to be the boss. Speaking of having huge gut sack, what's Vince McMahon like on a daily basis? You know what, Vince is. Everybody thinks he's evil. He's just a horrible human being. But you know, when my mother died, I was not in a state of mind to be there. And Vince told me, he said, "Listen, Mark, you need to go home." He said, "You come back when you're ready." And he paid me every day. I was gone. So he's got a level of loyalty from me and a lot of the guys that people will never understand because he's that guy. But he expects you to work like he would work. And who doesn't? If I own a company, I want you to sacrifice too. I don't want to be the only one with skin in the game. So that you take that and then you make your assessment of who you think Vince McMahon is. He's built up a publicly traded company from scratch. He's the most underrated genius in the history. I've always said it. Yeah, I think that in the next century, you'll be hard pressed to find another man or woman that was able to build from scratch a billion-dollar industry, multiple billion-dollar industry that equals what he's built. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that whatsoever. Like, it would take another 100 years for that to happen.
Mark, you had a really long run in the WWE, really impressive. Was there a favorite or?
Who the hell is this?
His name is Nick. He's actually one of Elias's high school friends. We went to high school with Elias. He's one of his really good friends. Big WWE fan, coming in hot in your ears.
We all know Elias doesn't have friends.
You had a long, very successful run.
I'm joking, Nick. Hey, man, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you? You had a long, very successful run. Was there, and a lot of evolution with your character over the years, was there one that stood out to you in particular that was kind of a favorite? You went from the strongest man to the nation to sexual chocolate. Was there one that stood out to you that you enjoyed the most?
I guess the Hall of Fame era was the one that I enjoyed the most because they allowed me to be exactly the opposite of me. And there were times where I went out and I told guys, hey, man, if I lose it, just get out of the ring. Because Vince told me, he was like, look, sometimes you just got to scare people. He's like, I want to see you do exactly the opposite of what we see you as. Everybody knows you're a great guy, Mark. Come on, but we want you to be a monster. And I was allowed to go out there and say what came to my mind. When I said, if I start charging for air, keep your damn bill paid, I meant it. And there was a bunch of times I'll split your head to the white meat and just all of the sayings and stuff. And everybody loved that stuff. And I suppressed that monster because that monster would get me killed in the real world because nobody's going to fight that dude. They're going to shoot him. So I was like, man, look, if I can portray this character and not get killed, hey, it's a win-win.
So you had to harness that bastard you got underneath there, huh?
Man, I have to. I mean, even now, I'm a old, chiseled, grizzled veteran, and if I act remotely close to that, everybody in Texas has a gun. If I get out of my car and go, hey, what the hell? It's gonna be. I'm gonna get a center mass, about 3 or 4 shots.
How much did Vince
So
McMahon?
I mean, like, I joke around a lot, but that was the best time for me in wrestling. Even though it was not the most, profitable time, but it was a lot of fun being the angry, hated Mark Henry.
How much help does Vince McMahon give people for their characters? Like he told you he wants you to be this monster. Does he do that with everybody, or does he pick and choose?
He picks and chooses. I created Sexual Chocolate, and like 16 years ago or 17 years ago, and still every time I get in front of the people, a Sexual Chocolate chant goes on. So it was. I take a lot of pride in that. And it was so much fun to do that character. Like you go out and everybody's expecting one thing, and then you give them comedy and you give them that, and like that's the thing that I love the most. I mean, we laughed on this show already 3 or 4 times because it's fun. Like I want to have fun. I want to have a good time. I want people to come away from the experience with me knowing that you was entertained, but you was a little bit afraid, but you laughed a little bit. Like, I mean, that's what it's all about. And Vince allows you to put that out in front of the people. And if it works, it works. If it don't, then they snatch it and you start doing something else.
This weekend, Hell in a Cell, big night on Sunday night for a lot of things. Hell in a Cell has created a lot of big moments. What are you looking forward to most, Mark?
Well, the main event, to see Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns go in there. And now that they made the tag, to see, Drew McIntyre and Dolph go up against the insane Dean Ambrose and one of my favorites in the company right now, Seth Rollins, like that's going to be a really, really good combination of people to work against. And I think people are going to get their money's worth.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I can't wait to watch it. And Mark, I am so thankful for you coming on the show, for you carrying me home. I can't wait to see you again. I'll be at the next NXT TakeOver. Mark Henry, you are the epitome of a professional, my brother, and thank you so much for joining us. You can check him out every single day on Busted Open, Sirius XM, the best wrestling talk on earth, the world's strongest man. Mark Henry, thank you, Mark.
Man, thank you, brothers. I'll see you soon, man.
You got it, Mark. Hey, Mark, don't be scaring any white people down there in Texas.
Man, everybody, not just white people. It's going to be everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world's strongest man, Hall of Famer, Mark Henry. Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate y'all.
Cheers, man. Take care, brother.